Does Dying Light 2 need a sequel to the following? I know what you're thinking. Kinda stupid ass question is that? I agree, it is kinda dumb, but let me explain what I mean. Following DLC for the original Dying Light was a phenomenal DLC for a variety of reasons, both in gameplay and lore context. We saw Techland take a pretty big chance by taking us out of the environments that lended themselves to the gameplay that not only the Dying Light IP excels at, but really separates itself from the rest of the zombie genre that's so overly saturated. We went from running around and dropkicking the undead off the highways and weak roofs of the slums and quickly escaping volatiles in Old Town that was phenomenally designed for the parkour traversal to being put in an open field, the countryside just outside of Haran, an element completely foreign to us. We were naked. We haven't been on flat, solid ground for the last 40 plus hours. Why the hell would we do that when we have so many other options to get around that at the very least are a little bit more engaging rather than boringly walking from point A to point B? So at first glance it did seem a little counterintuitive, with them trying to make up for it by providing us with a buggy, some brand new driving mechanics, and even providing a little bit of spice to it by letting us outfit the buggy with a flamethrower mounted on the front, an electric cage that fully surrounded it, or even hook it up with UV lights, making it a safe haven for nighttime exploration. Mechanically speaking, there's no doubt they took a big gamble with this DLC, and amazingly, it paid off. And it paid off really well. On the flip side, we did get to see a little bit more lore, some volatileness. The side mission that incorporated an NPC by the name of Sabbath even gave us an insight to the process of transforming into a volatile.
Holy fuck.
The ending of the DLC also introduced Sentient Volatiles and gave birth to many theories on how this virus could actually be a form of human evolution, and some of the infected can actually mutate and evolve rather than become the mindless feeding machines we see in the game now, an idea that's even further corroborated by the fact that the description of Volatile is considered to be the new apex predator. I think it's a safe bet to say many would want and even prefer a following type of DLC. I think that's a no-brainer. It's like someone telling you the sky is blue, like, no shit, Sherlock. It'll do the game justice, and I would say it would even put Techland in an interesting position to grant them the opportunity to shed more light on this world and the inhabitants 15 or so years after the fall of mankind. The question really is, how are they going to do it? What would this really entail, and what do you want to see most from it? Pretty much since launch, people have wanted some type of modern weapons in this game, maybe with some silencers. I believe there's even NPCs in the game that mumble from time to time about a gun stash somewhere. I'll be honest, I think it's dumb. I personally would not want any type of modern weaponry in this game. The shooting in the first game was abysmal. It was not enjoyable at all. And personally, I think Techland can come up with some incredibly ingenious type of long-range weapons that go beyond just an assault rifle, a semi-automatic pistol, or even a basic crossbow and bow and arrow that we have now. I'd like to see more creative ways to deal with that type of weaponry. You know, like maybe we'll see a crossbow that can fire 4 to 6 arrows horizontally all at once for some crowd control. Or they look at different types of bows from a longbow, recurve, or a compound, and each one can be modified to provide different specialties. I was also thinking of maybe having a blunderbuss that can fire those Villador tokens we find in the vendors around the city, actually making those useful, because I have no reason why they're even in the game now. I get it, it's to lure the infected away, but I'd rather just use firecrackers or just use my own body to kind of distract everyone. The tokens I don't even use. Whether if that blunderbuss is going to be breakable or not, I think would be up to Techland's discretion, as I think having a weapon with the ability to fire coins that can actually shred limbs clean off while making the receiver also stumble could be a little bit overpowered. So maybe have it where a mechanism inside of it slowly becomes unstable after so many uses, and bam, that can now double down as a throwable weapon. The receiver that's unstable starts to rattle, it attracts infected, and it explodes. Maybe not be a major explosion, but enough to, you know, actually rival, let's say, a Molotov. It's just a small incendiary fire, and maybe it's upgradable. In the final upgraded version, you make that fire bigger and it's something you can actually trigger manually. You don't have to constantly fire this thing. Instead, you can just pull the little pin out, starts rattling, chuck it in a group of infected, they all get attracted to it, and then it explodes. I don't know, I just want to see more things like that. I feel like with the weapons we have now, as well as because Dying Light 2, Techland wanted to make some more creative decisions where they're pushing the boundaries. You know, you can make decisions in the game, although they're not to the same extent and degree that I think the game should have took that direction. I think that's a course they can correct in the DLC, at least in these type of DLCs, or it could be something that they drop altogether and they'll write it off as a failure because they they just can't pull it off. But I would like to see something along the chemicals. You know how there's a chemical surrounding Villador? Maybe in at least some type of DLC taking place outside of the city, we'll see a group of survivors that are trying to weaponize this chemical. Everyone in this world is already infected, or at least everyone inside of Villador is infected. Whether if Techland wants to take the route where these survivors outside of Villador are also infected or not, it would be cool to see some type of group try to weaponize this chemical, actively expose members to this chemical in the hopes of creating that type of bond, the human evolution, so to speak. I think that will be a nice, I guess you could say, spiritual successor to the following DLC, where we see that the mother can actually communicate telepathically as a sentient volatile. Maybe these survivors in this theoretical DLC starts thinking that, you know, in small doses, in small controlled amounts, you can slowly mutate the DNA of a person, and without doing too much exposure, they still look human. Maybe they still have those tendencies where they will attack, but you have trigger objects that kind of brings their memories back. You can kind of more or less control them, for lack of a better word, or at least keep them on the path from completely mauling those on their side. Or hell, it doesn't even have to be the countryside. Just a brand new area altogether with some new unique weapons. I believe there's some assets on some horses that some modders actually pulled from the PC version of the game. Maybe we'll see horses incorporated that you can actually ride at some point. But the ultimate question of what I originally meant was, when I asked if this game needed its version of the following DLC, was really, do you think it needs a DLC that challenges the game's base mechanics again? You know, it takes you out of that environment that really excels at the parkour and puts you in something where you gotta use different movesets, you gotta use different types of weapons. I'm sure Techland has all of that data and information where they can see the typical moveset, typical ways people get around. I mean, I'm sure that's how the grappling hook got nerfed originally. They were moving in ways that Techland probably never even intended, and they flip it on their side. And one of the earlier Dying to Know episodes, they even said at some point we may even see them introduce a game mode where it's a little bit more survivor based. I'll incorporate the clip if I end up finding it. Maybe we'll see that in the DLC. You have to start micromanaging these different settlements in this particular area, and it transforms that into a completely different game. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about this today. I was playing the following DLC the other day, and I was just thinking about really the differences from the original game to the sequel, and how a different version of the following DLC would work in Dying Light 2, with the new weapons, with the gear, with the whole RPG system, and the whole make your choices, pick your side element that this game really approached. I'm sure eventually they're gonna go batshit crazy off the wall with the type of stuff we'll see in this game, with the whole 5-year plan, guaranteed content. I think typically after a year to 2 years, you'll start seeing developers break that immersion or set rule set where they want things to be realistic or fit the world in a way that actually makes sense. And then after a year or two, where it's those hardcore dedicated fans that are still basically playing, then it becomes a, alright, fuck it, let's all just do this for the sake of having fun. But of course, like usual, that's just me babbling. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What's some stuff you want to see, and at least the biggest DLC that Dying Light 2 would provide? Of course, naturally, most people are going to want some new explorable area, but what kind of skill trees do you want? Obviously, this game is missing the whole survivor skill tree. I don't really know if something like that would incorporate well into the game, but considering Aiden is, of course, infected, maybe we'll get some hidden infected skill tree, along with some new abilities that basically push the envelope of this game a little bit further. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like always, I greatly appreciate it, especially if you stuck all the way to the end. It really does mean a lot to me. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching, but until next time, we'll see if I end up uploading.